Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great day. Today on the bench we have an Ibanez. This is an SZ520. I just picked this guitar up recently on not Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. The guy's getting ready to move across the country. He said he didn't have a case for this and he didn't want to risk damaging it in the move, so he decided to get rid of it. It desperately needs a cleaning. It's pretty, tell the body's pretty nasty, the hardware is pretty nasty. The frets are really dull. The fretboard is dirty as well, but not horrible. And then just, the general setup as well. So, should be a good one. Stick around. So, Ibanez guitars are one of the more interesting brand histories, at least in my mind. They started out in 1908 as a musical instrument division of a bookstore that was in Japan. The bookstore was called, I want to say Hoshino Shoten. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And then the musical instrument division was Hishinogaki. So they're kind of like, I guess, Amazon in a way, that you start out as a bookstore and you expand into different things. But they originally started just selling sheet music, things like that. And then they first started making acoustic guitars in the mid 30s, like 1935. 1936, I think it's 35. So the name Ibanez actually came from a Spanish luthier, Salvador Ibanez. We're probably not actually pronouncing it right. We pronounce it Ibanez, which is a very American way to pronounce it. But if it was Spanish, it's probably like Ibanez or something. So Salvador Ibanez, like I said, was a Spanish builder. He was known as, really high quality craftsman. And I guess his big thing was that he made the first double neck guitar in the late 1800s, like a couple years before the turn of the century. So Ibanez started out making acoustics, and I think around the 50s they started branching out into electrics, and then around the 70s is when I don't know why, maybe just to sell popular models, they basically started recreating models of popular American guitars. So Fender style guitars, Les Paul, Gibson style guitars, Rickenbacker style guitars, and that is where the term lawsuit era guitars. So lawsuit era kind of gets thrown around all the time. Basically, some people think that anything from the 70s that's not an American made guitar is lawsuit, but that's not really true. That's not really true. There actually only were a couple lawsuits ever filed. But it's commonly referred to as lawsuit era. So if you see a guitar that's from the 70s, from Japan typically, and looks like a Fender or a Gibson or a Rickenbacker but isn't one, people will typically refer to it as lawsuit era. guitar and see this white kind of powdery looking stuff. It's not dirt, it's buffing compound. So in the factories, they'll just kind of slather that stuff on and use a polishing wheel or a buffing wheel to get that nice final shine. And then they know some areas will be covered up. You'll never see them unless you get into the guitar. So like tuning, the holes for the tuning pegs underneath of pick guards is a big one, inside of control cavities. So basically anything that's out of sight that most people will never know about, that's where they will not clean it off of. If you're ever looking to buy a 70s era import guitar and you see one that, you know, someone is using the phrase lawsuit era, I just encourage you to you know, do your research on that guitar. I think there's an intention behind that phrase for some people, and that is to kind of invoke a sense of quality where there, you know, potentially is not one. You know, Gibson and Fender and Rickenbacker, other guitar companies for that matter, they don't file lawsuits based on the quality of an instrument. They don't say, hey, this guitar is the same quality as what we're producing, they need to stop doing that. That's not what they're doing. They file lawsuits when there are trademark infringements, which may be, and usually is, related to the appearance of a guitar. So you'll see some old Japanese Les Paul style guitars where the headstock is the same as a Gibson. It's got that open book headstock, and you'll see 70s era where it has the Fender headstock. So, you know, just lawsuit era, I guess, for better or for worse, doesn't really mean anything anymore, other than it was produced in the 70s, around the time where there were some lawsuits. The guitar company may or may not have been even involved in them. And again, it's not a designation of the quality of the instrument, though some people would lead you to, would want you to believe that. You know, there were 70s guitars that are, you know, are just trash. I mean, there are guitars nowadays that are just trash as well. But, you know, just do your homework.